The paddock was already buzzing after Monza, but nobody expected McLaren to be the one lighting the fire. Not Red Bull, not Ferrari, McLaren. The team everyone thought was finally on the rise, cleanly run, united, fast. And yet, here we are, asking if they've just picked a side in their own driver lineup. Because this wasn't just a pit stop gone wrong or a racing incident. This was a philosophical pivot, a moment where McLaren stopped racing and started rewriting. Let's set the scene. Oscar Piastri had just delivered a beautiful stop 1.9 seconds, picture perfect. Lando Norris, not so lucky. A front right wheel gun glitch dragged his stop out to nearly 6 seconds. And just like that, the natural order flipped. Piastri jumped ahead. No foul play, no risky overtake, just timing. And instead of letting that play out, McLaren made a call that would ripple far beyond the finish line. They told Oscar to move over for Lando. Now, you've got to understand the weight of that decision. On paper, it looks like fairness. Lando got unlucky, Oscar benefited. But if you zoom out, what you're really seeing is the team reaching back into the race to fix something that wasn't broken. Since when do slow pit stops earn you special treatment? This wasn't about strategy anymore. This was about control, about optics, about picking favorites without saying it out loud. Oscar didn't throw a tantrum. He didn't pull a Verstappen and refuse, but his voice said everything. That calm, almost robotic acceptance, that was frustration in disguise. He was leading on merit. He did everything right, and yet here he was, pulling aside because the team asked nicely. If you listen closely to that radio, there's a shift, a crack. Not in Oscar's resolve, but in his trust. This wasn't Hungary, where team orders were based on pure race pace. At Monza, Oscar was holding position fair and square. And what did he get? A polite nudge to the side. That's how favoritism works in Formula One. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers through a headset. And Lando, he didn't cheer, didn't throw shade either. Just silence. That quiet shrug you give when you know things went your way, but you don't want to poke the bear. He called the day one of those races, said he did everything he could. No mention of the swap, no nod to Oscar. Because deep down, Lando knows, everyone does, McLaren just changed the rules mid-game. The timing of this matters too. We're not in the early races of the season. We're in the thick of a title fight. Every point, every position, massive. Piastri was keeping himself in the hunt, and now he's left wondering if his team's got his back when it counts. That's not just about this race. That seeps into every corner, every briefing, every glance across the garage, and the paddock noticed. You think Max Verstappen laughed just because it was a juicy bit of drama? No. He laughed because he's seen this movie before. Team dynamics falling apart under pressure, teammates becoming enemies, favors disguised as fairness. Max knows what happens when a team tries to micromanage fate. It never ends cleanly. McLaren, the team trying so hard to shake off its chaotic past, may have just stepped into a new kind of storm. One made not of broken cars, but broken trust. And the scariest part? This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate, a decision made behind the pit wall, calmly, strategically, and maybe, just maybe, foolishly. The post-race interviews didn't give us fireworks, but they gave us something more telling. Caution. Oscar Piastri's words were carefully measured, like a man who didn't want to start a war, but had already circled the battlefield. Bit of a tough one, he said, that's all. But if you've followed this sport long enough, you know what that tone means. It's not disappointment, it's realization. The kind that hits you when you've done your job perfectly and it still wasn't enough to be treated fairly. In Formula One, driver trust isn't a given, it's earned. And once it's broken, it's near impossible to patch up. What McLaren did may not look dramatic on the surface, but it sends a message, one that Oscar heard loud and clear. When the chips are down, the team might lean Lando's way, not because he's faster, not because of strategy, but because he's the face they've invested in, the one with seniority, the one with history, and that's the tricky part. McLaren isn't some evil empire twisting mustaches behind the pit wall. They're trying to avoid chaos, that's the irony. They don't want a repeat of the Rosberg-Hamilton mess that tore Mercedes in half. They want harmony, but harmony enforced through manipulation isn't harmony, it's control. And you can't control racing, not without consequences. The idea of balancing luck sounds noble. A driver gets unlucky, you try to even it out. But where does that logic stop? If Oscar gets caught behind a backmarker next race, will Lando pull aside for him? Doubtful. That's not how this works, because fairness in F1 isn't symmetrical, it's selective. And now every decision McLaren makes will be viewed through that lens. Fans aren't stupid, they saw what happened. Social media exploded within minutes. Justice for Oscar was trending before the cars were even back in the garage. And it's not just keyboard warriors shouting into the void, former drivers, analysts, insiders, all asking the same question. What exactly is McLaren playing at? Even Lando Norris, usually the golden boy with a cheeky smile, looked uncomfortable. He didn't celebrate the position, he barely reacted. That wasn't humility, that was awareness. He knows how this looks, and deep down he probably knows that if the rules were reversed, nobody would be telling him to step aside. He's too valuable, too embedded. That's the uncomfortable truth. This race didn't just challenge McLaren's strategy, it challenged their identity. For the past year, they've built a reputation as the team doing it right. Fast cars, exciting drivers, good vibes. But now there's a crack in that image, and the problem with cracks is they spread, especially when the people inside the garage stop believing in the structure. Oscar isn't a rookie anymore. He's proven he belongs. He's beaten Lando on raw pace more than once. He's fearless in wheel-to-wheel battles, and now he's patient. Too patient, maybe. Because when a driver starts swallowing unfairness for the sake of team peace, they either become a hero or a ghost. And Oscar? He's too good to fade into the background. McLaren has a choice to make, not in their next race, but in how they handle this growing tension. Do they double down on managing every detail from the pit wall? Or do they let their drivers race, really race, and deal with the fallout like champions? Because this isn't just about one team order, it's about what comes next. The precedent's been set. No question now is, when the next moment arrives, and it will, who do they back, and at what cost? Trust, once shaken, becomes a ghost in the garage. It lingers in every briefing, every late-night strategy call, every moment when a driver asks, are they really on my side? McLaren may have issued a single call on the radio, but what they actually triggered is something much deeper, a philosophical crisis. Not just for Oscar Piastri, but for the culture they've been trying to build. This sport has never been kind to second drivers. Ask Mark Webber how it felt when he saw Multi-21 ignored at Red Bull. Ask Valtteri Bottas how many times team strategy meant stepping aside for Lewis. Even at Ferrari, history is littered with number twos who were fast, fierce, and ultimately sacrificed. Oscar Piastri might have thought McLaren was different, but Monza raised a red flag. What makes this moment different is the timing. Oscar isn't fighting for crumbs. He's in a genuine title hunt. And this wasn't a moment to help Lando secure a win, it was for second place after a team error. It wasn't about race pace or fuel strategy, it was about image protection, about making the result look tidy on paper. But real racing is messy. That's the beauty of it. You earn it, you take it. You don't get it handed back because something went wrong in the pit lane. And then there's the silence. No apology from the team to Oscar, no open debrief for the fans, no clarity, just a quiet burying of the moment. That's not how you fix things, that's how you make them worse. Because now, every time McLaren issues a call, people are going to ask, who's it really for? Lando Norris, for all his talent, now finds himself under a spotlight he didn't ask for. He didn't make the decision, he didn't demand the position, but he took it. And now there's pressure, immense pressure, because the next time the roles reverse, he'll have to answer a simple question. Will he give it back? If Oscar suffers from a slow stop next time, will Lando move over out of fairness, or will the excuse machine spin into motion again? That's the trap McLaren has walked into. The minute you intervene to fix one mistake, you invite scrutiny over every decision that follows. And Formula One fans, hail! The whole paddock! Don't forget, this isn't a sport of short memories. It's a sport built on grudges, on patterns, on who got the benefit of the doubt one too many times. Oscar Piastri may not be slamming doors or throwing shade in interviews, but that doesn't mean nothing's happening. Sometimes the most dangerous drivers aren't the loud ones, they're the ones who get quiet, who internalize, who let the anger simmer and then turn it into pace. And if McLaren thinks this is over, they're kidding themselves. This moment will come back. Maybe not next race, maybe not even this season, but there will be another call, another decision point, and the echoes of Monza will be loud. If McLaren tries to play it safe again, they risk losing Oscar not just on track, but in spirit. And that's the beginning of a fracture no championship can survive. There's a line teams cross when they choose politics over performance, a moment when managing egos becomes more important than rewarding excellence. McLaren may think they're protecting the team. What they might be doing is breaking it. Oscar knows the scoreboard, Lando knows the pressure, and the fans, they know exactly what they saw. This wasn't just a team order. This was a declaration, intentional or not, and the storm it stirred up won't pass quietly.